In April 2026, a company in Dallas announced it was bringing back the blue buck, an antelope that went extinct in 1800. Not with a time machine, not with magic, with the same gene-editing toolkit they used to resurrect a dire wolf the year before. This is no longer a thought experiment. This is a production pipeline. And the woolly mammoth? It's next in line. Let's talk about where we actually are, because the answer is weirder, messier, and more consequential than any headline has told you. Here's the most common misconception about this project. We are not cloning a mammoth. There is no amber. There is no frozen embryo. There is no Jurassic Park. What we do have is the blueprint. Over the past decade, scientists have sequenced more than 100 mammoth genomes extracted from bones and tissue preserved in Siberian permafrost. Some specimens are over 40,000 years old. The DNA is fragmented, incomplete, like a water-damaged instruction manual. But with enough copies, you can piece the manual back together. The next step is where it gets interesting. The woolly mammoth and the Asian elephant share about 99.6% of their DNA, which means the genetic distance between you and your cousin is, proportionally speaking, larger than the gap between a mammoth and a living elephant. So rather than building a mammoth from scratch, the goal is far more elegant. Take an Asian elephant genome and use CRISPR-Cas9, essentially a molecular find and replace tool, to swap in the specific mammoth variants that matter. Cold-adapted hemoglobin, thick subcutaneous fat, dense, shaggy hair, smaller ears. We're talking 65 plus targeted edits. The result isn't a clone, it's a remix, not a mammoth. Not quite an elephant. A functional mammoth-elephant hybrid, built to survive and eventually thrive in the Arctic. But before a single hybrid calf can exist, there's a problem scientists didn't fully appreciate until they started solving it. Let's do a State of the Union, because a lot has happened very quickly. In 2025, Colossal Biosciences, the Dallas-based de-extinction company leading this project, made headlines with the dire wolf, a canid that vanished roughly 9,500 years ago, a prehistoric apex predator brought back through the same gene-editing framework. It wasn't a perfect reconstruction, but it walked, it ate, it was, by any reasonable definition, alive. Then, in April 2026, Colossal expanded the pipeline to include the blue buck, a strikingly blue-gray antelope native to South Africa, hunted to extinction by European settlers in the early 19th century. The announcement served as proof that this isn't a one-mammoth wonder. The technology is scaling. These are repeatable methods being applied across species. On the mammoth front specifically, the most significant recent development is something that sounds deeply unglamorous, but is, in biological terms, essentially a miracle. Elephant-induced pluripotent stem cells, or iPSCs. Here's why that matters. To create a mammoth-elephant embryo, you need a starting cell that can become any tissue in the body. Elephant cells have historically refused to do this. They've been notoriously resistant to the reprogramming techniques that work in mice and humans. Cracking that problem is the equivalent of finding the master key. Colossal cracked it. Scientists can now, in a lab, take an adult elephant skin cell and rewind its developmental clock, turning it back into a pluripotent stem cell, capable of becoming a heart cell, a nerve cell, a liver cell, or eventually an embryo. We still can't get office printers to reliably print on both sides of a page, but sure, let's reprogram the fundamental biology of the world's largest land animal. Fine, great, we have the cells, we have the edit. But here's the part nobody's figured out yet. Here is the elephant in the room. Literally, elephants have a 22-month gestation period, the longest of any land mammal on Earth. Using a living Asian elephant as a surrogate for a mammoth-elephant hybrid raises obvious and serious ethical questions. Elephants are endangered, emotionally complex animals that live in tight social structures. Subjecting them to experimental pregnancies is, at minimum, a very uncomfortable conversation. So, Colossal's stated plan is to bypass the surrogate entirely. They are developing large-scale artificial womb, controlled environments that can sustain a developing elephant embryo through its full 22-month journey without a living host. This technology doesn't currently exist at the scale required. Artificial womb research in mammals is genuinely cutting edge. Viable experiments have been conducted in lambs, and some preliminary work in larger species, but nothing approaching elephant scale. The engineering challenge is immense. Imagine a life support system the size of a car that has to maintain perfect biochemical conditions for nearly 2 years, adapting in real time to the needs of a growing organism that has never been grown this way before. Colossal's public target for the first mammoth-elephant hybrid calf is 2028. Whether that timeline holds is, politely, a matter of significant debate in the scientific community. But the company has a track record of hitting milestones faster than experts expected. All right, assume they do it. A calf is born. The natural next question is, why? Why spend hundreds of millions of dollars and decades of effort on it? Here's the answer that will either convince you or deeply unsettle you. The mammoth is not the point. The Arctic is the point. Here's the theory, developed by Russian ecologist Sergei Zimov over 30 years at his research station in Siberia, known as Pleistocene Park. In the Ice Age, the Arctic was not a barren snowfield. It was a vast, productive grassland, the mammoth steppe, maintained by enormous herds of megafauna. Mammoths, woolly rhinos, bison, horses. These animals didn't just live on the landscape, they engineered it. Their movement, their weight, compacted the deep winter snow, allowing Arctic cold to penetrate into the soil and keep the permafrost locked. The permafrost, in turn, keeps roughly 1.5 trillion tons of organic carbon, dead Ice Age plants, animals, frozen for millennia, from decomposing. When permafrost thaws, it releases methane, and methane is a greenhouse gas roughly 80 times more potent than CO2 over a 20-year window. Reintroduce large herding animals to the Arctic, the theory goes, and you slow that thaw. Mammoths, as the largest and most effective of the steppe engineers, are the obvious candidate. There's already a proof of concept. Zimov's son, Nikita, is actively rewilding a section of Siberia with bison, horses, and musk oxen. Soil temperature measurements show the compacting effect is real. And here's the conservation side effect nobody talks about enough. The same gene editing platform being used to build a mammoth-elephant hybrid is right now being used to develop resistance genes against elephant endotheliotrophic herpes virus, a disease that kills young Asian elephants at a devastating rate. The Mammoth Project is funding and advancing tools that could save a living species from extinction, but not everyone finds this convincing. There's a chorus of critics, and they raise some questions that are genuinely hard to dismiss. Let's be honest about the uncomfortable part. First, deliberately reversing extinction, a process that is, in some philosophical view, the final, irreversible verdict of nature. The usual counter is that humans caused most recent extinction, so human intervention to reverse them is repair, not hubris. Reasonable people disagree about where that line is. Second, the welfare question. If a mammoth-elephant hybrid calf is born in 2028 or 2030, it will be the only one of its kind in the world. It will have no herd, no social context, no mother who understands what it is. Elephants are among the most socially complex animals on Earth. A lone hybrid in a research facility is not a triumph. It's a profound ethical responsibility that the project must plan for, and the planning details remain, to put it charitably, vague. Third, the shiny object problem. Billions of dollars and enormous scientific talent are flowing into de-extinction at a moment when thousands of living species are racing toward the cliff edge right now. The Sumatran rhino, the Amur leopard, the vaquita porpoise. Critics argue that the resources and attention captured by the mammoth could be redirected to species we can still save with traditional conservation. Colossal's answer, that their platform generates tools usable for living species, is real, but not a complete rebuttal. These aren't rhetorical gotchas. They're genuine trade-offs that science can't resolve. That's a job for society. Here's the honest summary. The woolly mammoth is the headline, but the technology is the revolution. CRISPR-based de-extinction is creating a new category of biological tool, one that can edit, repair, and reconstruct genomes at a scale and precision we've never had. Whether it saves the Arctic permafrost, protects living elephant species, or writes the first chapter of an entirely new era in conservation, the implications reach far beyond one shaggy, cold-adapted hybrid. The mammoth might walk the tundra again by the end of this decade. The question that matters more is, what kind of world do we want to build around it? So I want to know what you think. Would you visit a Pleistocene park, a real functioning reserve, with mammoth-elephant hybrids roaming the Siberian steppe? Or does this cross a line that shouldn't be crossed? Drop it in the comments.